Hey guys, this is Justin. Hello and welcome to another video. We are continuing with our user-submitted video ideas for today. So if you'd like your question answered in a future video, leave it down below with the hashtag AskEck. Today, Cloud Cleaver asks, I haven't seen Vite Ramen in a while. Are you no longer our intergalactic noodle monger? Well, today's video is sponsored by our wonderful friends over at Vite Ramen. Everyone say thank you, Tim, down in the chat. Listen. Do you want restaurant quality ramen in your home, but with the convenience of instant ramen, with real ingredients as the broth base, like chicken in the chicken, real pork in the pork, and real Japanese imported white miso in the miso? Vite Ramen is unlike any other. Designed by a guy who cooked at Michelin star restaurants, while also being incredibly good for you, Vite Ramen is so worth trying out. And hey, I always recommend my flavor, Masamon Curry. We specially made it. It's phenomenal. I actually recommend you add peanut butter. But when you order Vite Ramen, you can feel confident knowing you're ordering from a passionate, talented Asian American small business with everything made in the USA, employees paid a living wage, and creators like me given a leash to say whatever we want. Vite Ramen is nutritionally complete, it's high in protein, it's high in fiber. There are tons of options from spicy to vegan to meat lover to low sodium. And if you haven't checked it out after all this time, maybe today's the day, because right now the first 100 people to use the link down in the description can use code ECK20 for 20% off. The next 250, ECK15 for 15% off. And honestly, I'm going to bully Tim so that second link keeps working no matter what, but try the first. But I suppose we have time for a couple other questions. Machina X Machina says, can you talk about Xim the Despot and or pre-Republic warships? I saw a couple of people mention that they like when I give both the lore and the behind-the-scenes details, so you'll probably like my answer here. Xim the Despot is a creation of some of the earliest Star Wars Expanded Universe material, specifically Han Solo and the Lost Legacy, which is book 3 of the original Han Solo trilogy by Brian Daley. As a note, this is different than the Han Solo trilogy by A.C. Crispin, but the 3 books are a fun read. We actually cover them on my podcast, TapCap Transmissions. They're also quite interesting because given their early nature, they told stories before all the kind of mechanical rules of the universe were fully established. Han Solo couldn't really go up against the Empire at this point, so his adventures take place in the Corporate Sector Authority, where he faces off against a different totalitarian regime, this time obviously the CSA. But in the 3rd novel, Han Solo encounters the legend of Xim the Despot and his lost treasures, including the fabled Queen of Ronroon, sort of a legend among spacers in the galaxy. Han learns the history in the novel, and we get the following. Xim the Despot had left behind legends of whole planets despoiled, of mass spacings of prisoners, and other atrocities, and Xim the Despot had ordered that stupendous treasure vaults be built for the tribute to be sent by his conquering armies. The treasure never arrived, and the vacant vaults, all that remained from Xim's reign, were a minor curiosity generally ignored by the big, busy galaxy. But we learn more in the novel, specifically that the Queen of Ronroon was the largest ship ever constructed, that Xim fought a massive war across the galaxy with orbital floating fortresses, large fleets, and most relevant to the book, an advanced army of war droids. Xim the Despot built a brigade of war robots to serve as his absolutely faithful royal guard. They were, at that time, the most formidable human fighting machines in the galaxy. It was believed, incorrectly, that only some of them survived Xim's final defeat at the 3rd Battle of Vontor. Of course, in the novel, Han Solo finds not only the Queen of Ronroon, but also an entire army of Xim's war droids, which, by the way, were still functional. Actually, not only were they functional, but 20,000 years later, they were standing on business. Xim is dead. The orders of yours are wrong. They do not come from him. You cannot obey him, Bollock said. And yes, Bollocks is the name of one of the droids. The turret swung to him, the optical pickups betraying no emotion. Steel brother, we are the war robots of Xim. No alternative is thinkable. Humans are not invaluable. If you follow these orders, they'll lead to your destruction. Save yourself. The vocoder boomed. Whether this is true or not, we carry out our orders. We are the war robots of Xim. The waiting time has elapsed. Stand aside. No further delay will be tolerated. Anyway, I won't spoil more in case this has piqued your interest. However, aside from the Han Solo's adventure, there is more Zim lore to be had. The best and most recent source for Star Wars Legends is the Essential Guide to Warfare, alongside a supplementary article on StarWars.com for the Essential Atlas, which explains that Zim is a character of legend, basically a symbol which has endured for over 25,000 years. Zim, a human, was born to a pirate king and spent much of his life serving under his father's conquests. Upon taking the throne from his father Zur, Zim fought conflicts against other major groups of that era, including the Livian League, essentially consolidating power within his part of the galaxy, leading to what the Atlas calls Zim's expansionist period, which saw massive colonialism and a rampage across the galaxy. Zim's empire at its full size scaled hundreds of thousands of worlds with shipyards, factories, and by the way, if you want to know about the ship specifically, the Atlas calls them hulking warships clad in Kyrium, massive beam tubes for ground assaults, and legions of lethal war droids. At this point, the size of one's fleet was not only important, the aesthetics and the grandeur of it were as well. The first step to the crumbling of Zim's empire would come when he decided on war against the Hutts. Now, initially, again, according to the Atlas, Zim was planning on peaceful negotiations to expand his beacon network, allowing safe travel across the galaxy, but he became obsessed with destroying the Hutts and was tricked into a series of devastating battles over Vontor. The Essential Guide to Warfare says Zim had ignored his advisors and bled his empire dry, creating warships and battle droids. At Vontor, the depths of his folly were revealed. Fighting far from his own borders, Zim was not just defeated, but captured, with his survival orbiting fortress taken as Hutt trophies. He would then spend his final days as a Hutt slave, which is not great. Of course, if you want more detail, the Atlas supplement on StarWars.com, I'll include the archived version, goes into just a ridiculous level of detail, more than I personally find interesting, but these were the basics. The Essential Guide to Warfare does have one really funny story, however. It says the Hutts took hundreds of war droids from Vontor as trophies and placed them basically as statues across their plazas and palaces. When the Yuuzhan Vong invaded Hutt space in 26 ABY, I quote, "The warriors received a shock. The war robots woke from their long sleep and killed thousands of the attackers before they were overcome and destroyed." Zim himself might have appreciated the irony. The book also has even more detail about Zim's ships. It says they were smaller than most Imperial era craft, probably classified as frigates or corvettes, and relied largely on torpedoes, concussion missiles, and pulse cannons, which melted hulls and disrupted circuitry. Energy shields were not very common or effective during this era, so instead, Zim's warships used the aforementioned Kyrium, which was a superconducting alloy meant to dissipate his energy weapons, and these are the mirrored hulls you'll see sometimes on starships of this era. We don't know the size of the Queen of Ronrun or Zim's other large ships like the Iban Scimitar, but they were presumably pretty powerful. Anyway, there's a lot in this early Republic era history to go into, but I think that's sufficient for now. I will end this video with one question that I've gotten many times, and that is, what books should I read from Star Wars Legends? And I've answered this more times than I can count. I'll give you guys the basics. I recommend every single person read the original Timothy Zahn Thrawn trilogy. To me, it's the closest Star Wars has ever come to matching the feel of the original trilogy, maybe aside from also Knights of the Old Republic 1, but certainly the closest for a novel. I personally would also recommend, because I really enjoy that era, the X-Wing series, and really everything. Just start with the Thrawn trilogy, see if you like it. If you don't, honestly, you're probably not going to like much else. If you do, go chronologically, starting with the courtship of Princess Leia. If you aren't interested in the post-Endor period, then what I'd recommend is take a look at a few different time periods. Choose a really well-regarded novel from each era and check it out. You can look at the Darth Bane trilogy from the Old Republic era. You can look at, say, Plagueis or the Revenge of the Sith novel from the Clone Wars era. I'd rather answer questions about specific books, but I also would not recommend that you jump right into the New Jedi Order, i.e. the Yuuzhan Vong War, or something like Legacy of the Force before you've done your actual legwork in your reading. But those are just my thoughts. Again, let me know yours, and if you've got any questions you'd like to see answered in this video series, let me know down below with the hashtag AskAck. But thank you for watching. Until next time, I'll see you soon.